Hi, welcome to Blacticulate, a podcast series featuring UK young black professionals, where we find out how they do what they do, so you can too. Or not. After all, it is your life. All right, guys. Once again, welcome to another episode of Blacticulate. As you know, I interview millennials, UK, African and Afro-Caribbean diasporas doing just amazing things, affecting positive change individually and socially. And today, no different. I've got an amazing guy who, geez, I don't even know how many titles he has. And this is one thing that we're going to try and dissect. But in front of me, I've got Chris, Ghanaian born or just Ghanaian?
Yeah, I was born here, but then I left very quickly and went to go live in Senegal and Ethiopia, Kenya, Egypt, Yemen. I've been around. Africa is definitely within me first.
Yeah.
If you want a place for home, I guess Senegal is it.
Senegal.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So, yeah, I mean, that's Chris, guys. You're hearing him first and foremost. And if you just wanted to tell us your titles, I guess. I mean, how do you define yourself?
It keeps evolving, if I'm absolutely honest. Well, this is probably the main reason why I don't have a business card, like I said, because I design to some degree. I'm an artist. So another aspect of me, I'm a filmmaker, but then I also started making that shift between filmmaker to director and then to a writer. It's in there. It's in there. It's in there. I mean, if I was being honest, the first things I started doing, I started designing clothes.
Really?
You know, and that was after I shifted from politics. So, you know, I'm floating.
Okay.
You know, there's
So,
no closed door just yet.
I mean, but you're young, and I feel like we had this conversation a little bit earlier where we have, what, in our lifetimes now, what, 13 jobs? And obviously
Yeah.
our parents and their parents only had one. So,
Mm.
and yeah, I mean, why are you smiling like that? What?
I'm smiling because the possibility of 13 careers in a single lifetime. If you look at the retirement age, and you look at when people really start working, you know, I mean, to some degree, people are encouraged to start working from, let's say, 16 onwards or
Yeah.
18 onwards. So in between that you're talking basically what, 40 years roughly, from like 20 to 60-ish,
Yeah.
or 65, is depending, give or take. It's not that long to have 13 careers. I mean, depending on how much time you invest, but to say 13 within 50-ish years,
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's a
It's
lot.
crazy. But what was it? I heard somewhere someone said that they retired from doing a bar job. And it's just like, yeah, I'm retired of that. I'm just like,
All right.
so, you know, that would technically be one of their careers.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
hey,
well,
man.
then you can add another title.
So, how do you make your money now? I mean, what's your bread and butter, if you don't mind me asking?
So the main way I've been making money assisting with kind of brand consultations with startups or small companies, helping them identify or to position themselves against their competitors, and to help them pick up the key points that allow them to make themselves truly unique, as well as being a filmmaker. So that's writing treatments, working with companies in order to create commercials or interesting content online. And then I've also worked as a freelance designer and editor for different creative agencies. And, you know, working on I worked with a company, the Light Surgeons, as well, actually, I was part of the production team for the cinematic orchestra concert visuals for the Sydney Opera House.
Nice.
So it was myself and another guy, and then the director overseeing everything. But that was interesting. So I guess I don't know what you would call that title. Is designer slash editor slash filming.
I guess you're yeah, no, I'm trying to wrap my head around it now as well. You are a storyteller.
Yes, I think the best way. I mean,
Branded content
yeah.
is, as well as obviously you do your own independent stuff where it doesn't necessarily have commercial, or do you always look for the commercial angle?
I would say that I'm definitely split into. I've intentionally split myself from commercial and then conceptual work. The commercial work is primarily working with like branded content, commissions from larger corporations or organizations, and then stuff in the corporate, and then conceptual work deals with galleries, museums, different art organizations specifically.
Okay. Well, Chris, then give us your journey then. So, how'd you get into that? So, anyone who's listening, you know, potentially see that as the same route they can take.
Right. I guess the point when I started to think I was sort of creative, um, I when I was in school, I started off. I was doing sociology, product design, French, and I think can't remember what else during A levels.
What school did
And
you go to?
I went to Caterham High School.
I don't know.
That was a sixth form, right? But I will let
If
you
you guys
know.
could see the way Chris is looking, it's like as if
Uh, I
so,
really don't like to admit that I came from there, but
okay.
I would
Where
say
is
let's just say
that?
I went to six primary schools all over London. So
Okay.
where I settled was like in that area. Let's not worry about location.
Okay.
Let's leave that where where it is. What I started to do with a friend was started to draw designs on like hoodies and t-shirts and jeans and high heels. And I started to sell a couple of them. They weren't
Okay.
necessarily spray paints, but using acrylic paints to kind of draw up designs. And I guess I should make a reference that my mum was a fashion designer before she became a chef.
Okay.
So I guess
Nice.
that was there. Um, and then I was going down the political route like my brother and my father. But one of my teachers said, "Oh, you're actually quite creative." When I was doing design technology, she said, "Why don't you apply for an art foundation?"
Oh,
And
nice.
I said, I was like, why not? Because I had a big A3 book of just random ideas that I was interested in. So I applied at this point to University of the Arts London, um, and I got rejected by Chelsea, which is my first choice, thank God, because that would not have been the right place for me. And then
Hindsight, right?
and then LCC called me. I think it was on a weekday morning at around 10 o'clock and said your interview's in half an hour.
What?
No, in 45 minutes. You have to come now, or you won't be able to get in. I said, but you didn't even give me notice. So I literally showered, ran to the bus stop with my clothes all undone, pretty much got dressed at the bus stop, left half my books at home and my some of my models, went to the interview and then got in.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Like did they just do that?
I
Can
swear
they?
to you.
That's crazy. Okay, so you're now in uni and you're studying.
I studied for part of so after the foundation, I did a BA at LCC, which was at that time it was a conglomerate of courses called graphic media design, but I was specializing in interaction and moving image, or design for interaction and moving image.
Nice.
Um, do you want to explain a little bit what that is, or you
No,
got that?
but I mean, I'm kind of from that. It's almost then it actually makes sense in terms of what you do professionally.
Yeah,
Because
it's linked.
it's
Yeah,
yeah, the bridge is there. It's
yeah.
quite self evident. But did you take a lot from it? Was it a good found? Was it a good course? Did it give you a good grounding? Because if I'm going to be
Mm.
brutally honest with you, I did the same degree, not interactive movement, but mine was advertising pathway,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah,
Like I wish,
I
guys,
started off in that course, but then I left.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I love the teacher; she's really nice, but it just wasn't for me. I had a moral issue.
right, yes,
I just couldn't sell you something that I didn't think was worth it.
okay, noted. But I'm just saying. I mean, do you feel almost like going to uni is essential, especially in this day and age, in order for you to be able to do what it is you do in a
um,
professional context? Because
it,
I'm almost going
mm,
to ask you after this, like, give me those steps on how do you tell people stories, etc. So I'm thinking, does the course actually give you a good foundation?
right. Um, I think just to make that point is when you ask me what my titles and then what I do.
Mm.
I did my project. A friend of mine wrote like a mini interview kind of essay on what I was doing, and he asked me, "So what do you do?" And I said, "Really and truly, I guess I'm a cult storyteller."
Okay,
And I think that's probably the best way to put it.
that's lovely.
Um, in regards to whether university is necessary, that depends on what you think university is.
Okay.
Um, you don't. I when I looked at university, I wasn't going to university to expect teachers to teach me and to instill knowledge into me specifically. It was more about finding which tone or form of communication did I need in order to articulate what I was thinking of, what I was interested in. So
Uh,
that was the point of university for me. and ideally to meet people. Um, that's what I think. That's what university is for. Yes, I mean everyone knows first year you need a very minimal amount of work to pass.
Yeah, yeah.
So take advantage of that year. Obviously, you do more than pass, but that is the time to really engage. With the people. I mean, I remember the first week. I literally gathered 100 numbers within 1 week
Wow.
just to make in as many different courses and as many different years as possible, because I don't see the point in having one set or group of people in a place that has thousands of people in there. Not saying that we have to be best friends, but why shouldn't I know who you are? How at one point, not necessarily for my benefit, but one person I may know may be beneficial for somebody
Yeah.
else, and I can be that bridge.
Connecting.
You know,
100%.
that's what I thought university is important for.
That makes a lot of sense. And okay, brilliant. So let's get into almost like
Mm,
the nitty gritties,
sure.
the toolkits, the how tos,
Mm,
right? How do you? So if I walk me through, if I was a client of
hmm.
yours, say for instance, because you do brand consultancy,
Yeah.
what are the questions? How's this process? How do we start?
So,
In fact, I'm Blacticulate. I'm Blacticulate right
so
now.
you want free advice? First start is monetize your work. Now I'm playing. What I mean, the first thing is whenever I start speaking to a company or an individual, in any case, whether it's for branding or for to direct something, a film or whatever, I first things like, so who are you and what you're about? How does your company relate to who you are? Because there should be a connection. Your moral center should reflect within your company first and foremost. Otherwise, you can easily sell out and you can easily lose track of where you're developing or what you're growing into.
Right.
So before I ask about the company, I try and get to know the person as much as possible. Within most of my meetings probably last 2 hours.
Wow.
Right.
Initial meetings.
Initial meetings probably at least 2 hours, which is why it's always good to have a coffee shop. But
Yeah.
so the first 45 minutes, who are you? What do you do? Do you have kids? How what's your interaction with the kids? What kind of things are you interested in? How does where did the birth of your company come from in a necessity or an idea in your life? Not just when did it come up, what caused it to come
The
up?
catalyst. Yeah.
And then from that, what are the fundamental pillars that hold this company, and what is it that you wanted to keep going? What's the line that you're not willing to cross? What's the moral line you're not willing to cross? And from that, then you can start establishing yourself as an institution or a company with integrity.
Right.
Which is kind of why sometimes I had a bit of an issue with advertising, sometimes because it's trying to get you to buy things that maybe you don't need, and sometimes that wasn't always apparent. So with that, once you understand you've got a place of integrity, now how can you make your idea profitable with your integrity still intact?
How? Jeez, that's a big one, isn't it?
It's a big one, but the thing, this comes to the point, is how far are you willing to go?
Okay. Without losing your integrity.
Yeah.
And then you sort of then flesh out, because obviously I don't want you to give everything. Cause,
then you flesh out, if you're selling something, what you're selling, how you're presenting it, what kind of color schemes are you using, the psychology of color, who's holding your product, where you're buying it from, where is it being manufactured. For example, are you going to use a sweatshop in order to sell it for £30 when it costs you £1? How does that impact? What does that sit right with you in the long term? If you're exposed for that, how do you recover? How would you recover from that? Can you even stomach going through that kind of battle? Companies right now are going through some issues. If you're onto Facebook right now, you're seeing some people getting exposed to some stuff, and you don't want to be in that position, especially if you're quite fragile.
Okay, so you also do, I guess, crisis management.
If you want to call it that, I guess that's what. Yeah.
Because I mean, that
prevention.
Prevention.
Crisis prevention. That's part of the branding conversation that we'll have.
Right. And do you remember your first client? Because how do you almost just get into that? How do people see you or recognize you as an expert in order for you to be able to deliver?
I mean, I guess that starts back from when I took a placement year during my degree. It was just after my second year, and they said, take a year out, get some experience. And in that period, I pretty much overdosed on experience, if that's one way to put it. we were required to do, I think it was a minimum of 3 placements for 3 months, but we had, I think, the equivalent of, let's say, 15 to 16 months worth of time in between finishing school in second year and starting third year.
Right.
So I technically worked 7 days a week for 16 months
Jesus.
and balancing 2 to 3 internships, sometimes per day or per week. And I regarded the way I divided my time was 9 to 5 was one job, 5 to 12 was another, and then 12 I need to sleep. So
That is
in my
crazy.
opinion, 5 p.m. is a half day. So it comes down to what how much do you want it,
Yeah.
or
But
how
did
much
you
don't
know?
you want something else that you want to do something.
But whilst you're doing all these internships, you still did you know what you wanted? If you know what I mean, because it still feels
Mm,
like you're a man of many talents.
mm,
Do you know what I mean? And you've got many verticals,
mhm.
and you excel at all of them. So was it just because of that internship you were doing so many, and you liked it all?
Mm.
I mean, are you a jack of all trades and a master of none, for want of a better word?
I wouldn't say that because I almost it gives the illusion that
You
if you
can't
know how to
be.
do a lot, you can't do anything well,
Yeah,
and I don't think that's necessarily true.
that's true.
Um, I also I mean, so within that period, I guess to answer your first question is I worked with setting up or designing or completing a brand redesign for certain small companies. Looking at graphic novels, then I started working for a professional company or an established company that was working internationally, and I started doing packaging design.
Okay.
And then that's that. I realized that wasn't for me. I didn't know what my role was within the commercial industry, but what I decided to do was take that time in order to write an entire list of all the possibilities and cross them off by the time I started third year.
Oh my god,
So I
that's
did
amazing.
every single possible one that I could do, and within that, certain things overlapped, opportunities arose. I remember with one company, Creative Leap, what they wanted to do was they're going to ask for an external company to do an animation for them, and I had a little bit of experience with doing animation in After Effects. So I said before you go to them, let me have a go. If you like it, you've saved some money. If
Mm,
you don't, then definitely go to them. I said, give me half a day. I pulled it together. They said, okay, cool, we're going with you. And I did the whole thing, and all of a sudden, I was animating.
yeah,
So
amazing.
find these opportunities, and I realized at the end of that internship, I didn't want to. I wasn't interested in company in that kind of work in package design or specific graphics for companies every single time. So I moved on from that, but I still withheld that knowledge, that information, that process that they went through, and I've been able to apply that to what I've been doing with other companies.
Hey guys, before we get back to the episode, I just wanted to say thank you very much for listening to us. Now you can continue to support us by visiting www.blacticulate.com, or you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now let's get back to the episode. I mean, I think it's quite evident just by listening to you are very meticulous might not be the right word, but you're
Mm,
definitely someone who you see something and then you're gonna just go for it, regardless of
mm,
if you have the resources or just anything, you'll just try and make it happen,
mm,
right? And is that because I mean, if you haven't really spoken about your upbringing as such, I know you've
mm.
got two brothers.
Yeah,
In fact, that's how I know you through the middle one,
yeah.
right? Michael, who's phenomenal. Give him a shout out if you want.
Big ears, Dumbo. That's what we called it back in the. No, very, very, very. I mean, very talented, special guy. Actually, it's seeing him in a room is actually quite a bit of a spectacle.
Mm,
I've never seen one person been able to connect with so many people all at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. And then your eldest, I mean,
Yes.
what so yeah, talk to us
The
about your
upbringing,
upbringing in
right?
terms of I assume because that's shaped you who you are.
Mm. I mean, what I can say is that growing up, jumping around in different African countries, um, it was a great way to realize that wherever I was, I wasn't limited to thinking that wherever I was the world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't necessarily leave their country and think, or when they go somewhere, they take their country mentality with them instead of trying to adapt to what's there. And I think the great thing is that traveling all around, I was able to adopt the cultures, the principles, the things that and how they function, and that I felt was an enriching experience. So I saw extremely harsh, circumstances for families, for homeless, hunger, poverty. And then I saw the fact that at the end of the day, there were still people that caring for people.
Mm.
It was very different. The mentality was very different to what I was experiencing in the UK. Um, and with that kind of diversity of upbringing, what that meant, what I realized was that privilege is a luxury.
Okay.
And if you're in a country where you have free education, borderline free travel within your own education, not anymore, um, and potentially subsidized school food, to say that you don't know what you want to do or you're spoilt for choice, for me is almost the ultimate luxury to a degree.
Mm.
Because I know a lot of people that would, people that are sacrificing family members just for education, and I think that's something that I can't take for granted.
Right.
Yeah, so to me, I don't. If I want to, I mean, my mum every day as we went to school, she said, "You are above and not beneath, the alpha and the omega." She really instilled a case that if you want something bad enough and you're willing to put in the work for it, then who can say no to you? And
Mm.
I think in order to, I think the point of that becoming realistic is, in order for that to happen, sometimes having a working within an institution that stops you from growing is what stops you from becoming from getting to the top.
Okay, speak more on that.
Um,
Because
I,
I
I'm
see where
I'm
we're
an
going. Yeah, I like it.
I'm an advocate for being self-employed, or being an entrepreneur to a degree, because your your limit is defined by you, not by someone else's ego.
Mm.
And I'm not saying don't go work for a company who may do what you want to do, but at the end of the day, you can set your own schedule in order to achieve the goal, or the goal of the collective of of your company. If you feel that's a family, then great. But can you set your timeline according to what you feel is appropriate for you in order to achieve what you need to achieve? And I think being able that having that freedom and ability to structure your time and your day in order to achieve a goal for a greater purpose or for somebody else is something that's invaluable.
Yeah.
I saw an example. There was a lady that I think she was an illustrator, and her work day was she would wake up at 11 or 12, go for a walk from 12 to about 2 or 3, do some food shopping, do all that kind of stuff, and then start work at 10 in the evening, work till 4 a.m., and then do run it all over again.
Interesting.
So she literally restructured those 24 hours in a day according to how best she works. She works better at night. But if
Mm.
you work in 9 to 5 and you don't really work that well in the day, it doesn't work for you. You may could be looked at as an unmotivated worker.
Yeah.
But it's just a case that maybe you function differently.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So I want to almost get into the challenges
Mm,
because you're a big advocate, obviously, of being totally independent as much as you can
mm,
be. Work for yourself, have your own schedules, and just
mm.
everything you've just spoken about. But it's not easy,
It's not.
and you must be going through the challenges as we speak.
Hmm.
Can you speak on some of these? Like,
Yeah. Okay, so I guess the reality of being self-employed is there's certain things that you have to pay for consistently. So every month there's a bill or a certain amount of bills coming your way. So you have to be able to identify. I think one thing a teacher said to me is that if you're creating something, you have to divide it according to commercial and conceptual.
okay,
What percentage of what are you doing is in order to survive, in terms to live financially, and then what percentage do you need in order to live mentally? How
right,
can you how can you live with your choices, and how can you live with it? How can if you look at London wages to a degree, so you can live, you can survive on your salary, but how much do you really need to live? So with the conceptual work, that's what keeps me alive. The commercial work is what helped me survive.
yeah,
And as soon as you start getting money from both, then you really start finding that you can start readjusting your percentages. Um, so like I said, some of the challenges are dealing with the bill. So what commercial work or what commercial things or what corporate things do you need to do in order to get a regular check coming?
yeah,
Then with that, say what creative work or what personal things do you need to do in order to keep you happy and sane? And I think finding that balance or finding that opportunity is necessary. I mean, if you look at the actors, a lot of them, there's the stigma of working as a waiter or waitress and then
Yeah.
doing auditions later in the evening. That band, I did that. I remember I had two jobs and went to school and did creative things at the same time. And then I mean, there was a point where I said, okay, no more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you in a good place now? I mean, I know
I,
you like you said, there's a constant balance.
yeah.
Readjusting.
I mean, before I started doing my masters, I was in a very good place. I managed to pay off my student loan very quickly.
Amazing.
I managed to save up to start doing a master's. I managed to acquire all of the things that I needed in order to work. So I'm not renting
Yeah,
equipment
no
at this point.
overheads.
I was everything was pretty much. I paid for everything full out. I have that thing. I just don't. I like to pay for something once, and it's mine,
Understand.
and then I can distribute and do what I need to do. The challenges are there's a point where how much more can you take certain things. So for me, retail was a point. I had to draw a line and say, okay, no more retail. Let me start using the skills that I've acquired from that and start implementing it within my own work. There's a point in that where finances may drop, but then as soon as you start finding a rhythm or formula that works, you can start to build that up
Yeah.
beyond. You know, um, I think Richard Branson said, as soon as you stop learning something, it's time to leave.
Yeah, 100%.
And I agree with that. I think we base too much of our success on finances, not necessarily on psychological well being.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I want to get back to the idea of you saying retail. That's enough.
Yeah.
But you can apply what you learned from retail into
Hmm.
what it currently is you're doing. So what
Right.
is that? Can you be more
So,
specific?
when I was working in retail, I was working as a cashier, and so what you're dealing with, I was learning about their accountancy. I was learning how to do their numbers. I was learning how to, what was their estimated kind of sale growth. I was talking to when some of the senior heads came over from Spain. I spoke to them a little bit, understand how are they developing, what things were they trying in order to make the experience better for the workers as well as for the customers.
Right.
These are the things that I started applying for when I started doing the branding consultancy. What are you doing as an employer to make your employees happy and also they can work further, work more or work harder for you? And you pick up things everywhere. You never stop learning.
Yeah,
I
of
learned how
course.
to do certain managing account books. I learned how to maximize marketing events from the company. Not saying they were particularly successful, but I think from when there were failures, I managed to understand why there were
Yeah,
failures and then
learnings
build
and
on top of
effects.
that.
Perfect. So I feel like, God, this has been great. This has been great, and there's just so much. I feel like I'm gonna have to get you back again, round twos.
I don't mind, man.
When the audience just say, "Forget Chris back," it's like, forget you, Annie.
Yeah.
Really Chris and
Oh my
Blacticulate.
gosh.
That would be brilliant. So I do want to, because we are going up to the mark.
Yeah.
So I want to actually almost get the idea of, you said that you can. How do you monetize?
Right. Um. Monetizing is probably one of the biggest things that I'm facing now. So, with I guess maybe one of the things that maybe got you to ask me to come was the fact that I was now getting attention for some of the things that I've achieved, or people are now aware of the work that I'm doing, and that comes with first getting noticed.
I ain't gonna lie to you, because you Michael.
Yeah, Michael, and then but even when it started the dialogue, so you
No,
knew
no,
Michael,
no, of
but then to
course.
even to get him to come, it was like,
You
oh
said that
wait.
you're phenomenal, and that is true. It's evident.
Mm. So I mean, it was interesting with those dialogues. So what were so first thing I did was putting things out for free. What can you afford to put out for free that can get you attention? If you're gonna make an entrance, make it big,
Okay.
right? So I think the first film that I did, that broke some conventions, and that was interesting.
Don't be coy. Don't be coy, Chris.
Yeah,
Put it
I
out
should
there.
put it out.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So
This is about, yes, the success. Let's put it out there. Put
right.
it out there.
So I directed and wrote a short documentary that played with the concept of how documentaries are structured, and with that, I won the BFI Best Documentary of the Year at the
Congrats.
Future Film Festival.
What was it called?
Hertz, which is HERTZ, according to like the scientific sound measurement. And then with that got some attention. That got a few knocks on doors. I got a few interviews coming, and then that led to an opportunity in which I looked at, and I was selected to write and direct a film in collaboration with a musician from the Royal Philharmonic Society, and they looked at what I did and said, okay, that's interesting. We want you to do something. So they gave me a budget to do something. So what I already did for free, I'm now getting money to do.
Yes.
And then what I'm at the point I'm at now is the case of, now that people know what I can do, then now I have something to say. Okay, I've done this, I've achieved this. These people have seen my work. These people out, I have it now. I'm exhibiting in Singapore, which is crazy.
Amazing.
And in America, which I'm still in a bit awe about that. But now that they know what I'm doing, it's okay. So if you want me to do something, let's figure out how we can make this happen. I had a conversation with a magazine, and they called me in and said, we've featured your work and multiple times. What we want to do is try and set up a collaboration system. How you come up with something interesting, does it associate with our brand or the way that we work? Okay, yes. Okay, what we'll do, we'll give you all our equipment and a studio in order to produce it, but we just call it a collaboration between the two of us. So I have no expenses at that point. But then I said yes, okay, fine, but that doesn't put money in my pocket. So how can we come up with an arrangement in which we can create something that can satisfy your requirements as well as your audience, but also monetize the video content or whatever it is in order to make an income?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of saying, let's make this profitable. Because nothing's for free. There's too much going on. The fashion industry is renowned for borderline slavery. The hours that I've seen some people work are absolutely insane. And there's nothing wrong with having your head on your shoulders and saying, I have bills to pay, let's make this happen. Because at the end of the day, they're getting paid.
Yeah. And I think, though, in truth, I mean, you even put the fashion industry in context of this. But if you don't say yes, someone else would.
Yes.
But that's fine, because like you said, it's all about your moral compass and what you're willing to.
And I think that's something, there's a balance. So it's a case of I guess the point for me is how long do I need to balance before I can completely shift into one side, to the full conceptual side. And where I am now, I guess, once you start having this conversation, okay, how can we make it possible? You have to actively search out ways of making things possible. So you have to have a business head with your creative mind. It has to happen. Otherwise, you will be continuously taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, this has been a gem. I almost want you to... You've got open reign. I'm not even going to ask a question. Like, if, for those who are listening to you, I'm going to find out how we can get in touch with you if you want them to get in touch with you.
Yeah. My address is... No, I'm playing.
But before that, and this is going to be, I guess, a penultimate question, is what would be your... not like top line, but if someone wants to almost emulate in your successes thus far,
wow,
are there any sort of, okay, these are the resources I use, these are the tools, this is how I consider, because I mean you've spoken about it, we have, but I just almost want some pithy bullet points, actions, if there are any you can give.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a successor for it. I find that word and my name quite weird going together. But I guess one point is to continuously keep creating. So I know that's a very generic answer, but what I'm saying with that is that yes, keep logging down all your ideas for one, but what you start doing is start making presentations of them. So I even myself, I have 4 projects that I want to make. So what I've done, I've created synopsis of what they are, what they require, what they need, which kind of companies would be interested in, and then I contact them directly. So this is proactively searching for opportunities. Another way of doing that is start utilizing your network. Not what I do. I don't necessarily go out and say, "Hey, I need you to do this for me." I start to pair other people together. I said, "This person's doing this. This person's doing that. You guys should talk. Something good can happen from that." And then I say, if you know anyone from that can maybe help me with this, send them my way. I'm not doing it for my own gain, but I start looking after the people that I know first.
Yeah. Because
when you start creating an environment where everyone, from example, is looking after one another or sending things their way, you start to find that you start to get taken care of as well. Being present online, and when I say present online, I don't mean just posting on Facebook, this is what I've done. Target who you're talking to. And not just say, hey, look at this. We say, it'll be nice to have a conversation to see this is what I'm doing. How about can I get your opinion on a one-to-one? Because as soon as you get them to meet with you or to have a conversation, what you start opening up is a dialogue of possibilities in the future. I can even back that up with an exhibition that I recently was in. and met a director, and he goes, "Do you know what? I've seen your work. It's really kind of interesting. Why don't you come on set with me?" And he just finished a TV series and films Stan Lee, the founder of Marvel.
Amazing.
So networking is one of them. Targeting people specifically for advice, not necessarily for job opportunities, but just for their opinion. In the sense, it makes them valuable to you in a point where you're not trying to get money for them, but you're complimenting them at the same time. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of much else, but there's some other stuff.
I mean, honestly, guys. So how can we get in touch with you? You know, I mean, God, great advice, man. Like, how can we get in touch with you? Twitter, Facebook,
yeah, Twitter,
anything you want to put
Twitter, Instagram. My handle is at @IAM_CLQ, and Facebook. I've now set up a page finally. So artist, and then at the end of it, you just put CLQ, and I'll be right there. And then you can go on my website is cl-q.com.
Brilliant. Well, guys, I think you can join me. Well, I don't know. I hope you can join me in saying that this has been another brilliant episode of Blacticulate. And Chris, honestly, thanks for coming. Thank you for Hey guys, we really appreciate you listening, and if you have any feedback, please leave it in the comment section below. Also, all the info about the guests, the links and the resources we speak about will be in the description below. And last but not least, please do get in touch if you can teach us how you do what it is you do. Because after all, Blacticulate is all about empowering and upskilling the community. Thanks guys, you're the best. See you soon.